It's Martin. We're here in the studio today making everyday French loaf. This is a beautiful new bread from our forthcoming book, The Big Book of Bread. Come along for the recipe. The way this is going to work is that we're going to mix the preferment, which is this flour, water, yeast combination, and then it's going to rise for a long time, like 12 to 16 hours overnight. You could do that in a bowl. On day 2, you're going to continue the mix in the same container. So you can either do a bowl and then put a cover on it, or if you want, and often I do this at home, I will use a 6-quart Cambro because it comes with a lid. Very handy tool. I use a lot of Cambros in my own baking. We're going to start with water in the bowl. And the water today is cool, and that's because this preferment is going to rise for a long time, right? If I use warm water, it's going to rise quickly, and then it's going to sort of be gassed out. And just a tiny amount of yeast. It's just enough to sort of initiate and continue fermentation over that long period of time. There's no need with instant yeast to let it bloom or do anything. You can go straight in with your flour. I guess I should tell you a little bit about what a poolish is. It's equal parts flour and water by weight. There are a couple benefits of the poolish, mainly flavor, but also some functional things as well. So everything in the bowl, stir to combine, and always scrape down your side. Do your best to clean the bowl. Clean your implements, make sure everything is tidy. And then you're just gonna cover it and place it in an ambient condition that feels good for 12 to 16 hours. And what I mean by good is you don't wanna put this in the hottest spot in your house, and you also don't wanna put it in the coldest spot in your house. Put it in some place that's room temperature, 68 to 72 degrees, something like that. So, see you in 12 to 16 hours. Just making sure you can follow me. Look at you, you're so fancy, so good. All right, so I put my poolish to rise for 12 to 16 hours, and when you come back to it, it's right, it looks beautiful, it's exactly where it should be. The surface is covered with tiny sort of pinprick holes, and it's got some sort of like uneven spots. It looks beautiful. If you smell it, it smells like bread. It smells cheesy, smells like fermentation. And that's kind of the whole point here, right? You set something, let it rise overnight, it develops flavor, and then it goes into the final mix like some sort of bouillon cube of fermentation flavor. The ease of mixing that preferment in the bowl is demonstrated here because the next step is literally just to pour the final mix water directly into the bowl. So you can stir that up, you can use your hand if you want, you could use a spoon too, but what I advocate for is almost like a frothy sort of agitation. I get my hand in here and make sure everything is homogeneous. Water is in there, preferment's in there. I'm gonna get some yeast in, also my salt, and also the flour. You know, we're making bread today and I'm using all-purpose flour, and maybe that's a little bit confusing because people sometimes think, well, bread flour for bread only? Not necessarily. Sometimes we want the tenderness of all-purpose. It gives you a little bit softer crumb. All right, so everything in the bowl. This isn't a bread that you are going to dump out onto the counter and knead. A lot of breads in the hearth bread category don't get mixed in a machine, and they don't really even get kneaded much. And the reason for that is we're really leaning into the flavor of fermentation with these breads. And what that means is that we're using time as our ally. I'm just looking to make sure that no dry spots remain. And then I'm gonna switch to my flexible scraper for just a second. I'm gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl. And I might just do a little bit of a sort of pressing motion. I'm just looking here to make sure I don't have any dry spots and that the dough is homogeneous before it goes into the period of bulk fermentation when I'll fold and sort of add some additional strength. Okay, so that's the mix. Afterwards, you're gonna cover it and you're gonna set a 20-minute timer and then we'll come back and fold. You behave yourself, I'll come see you in a minute. The dough has had 20 minutes. It's been 20 minutes since we mixed the dough, and we're at the point where we're gonna give it its first fold. The point of the fold is to sort of organize the dough and further strengthen it. As I mentioned, with a lot of hearth breads, we're using time and folds to develop strength, right? So this is a bowl fold. With a wet hand, starting on the outside of the dough, I'm gonna work my way around the mass, stretching up and pressing to the center. I'm gonna do that until the dough feels tensioned about 8 to 12 times. You can see already that this dough, which started out as sort of like a lumpy mass, as I stretch it, you can see how it thins out beautifully. Look at that. People talk about the window pane. We didn't have to mix it in order to get that. We just had to use two things. One, time, and two, really good flour. And once it's there, I'm done. We're gonna set it aside for another 20 minutes, covered, and then we'll come back for another fold. Okay, done. Okay, we're back for the second fold. And this is another bowl fold, same as the first one. The only difference is that instead of doing like 8 to 12 times, I'm doing about 6 to 8 times. It's developing strength and it doesn't need that reinforcement in the same way. Same motion as before, stretching from the outside, pressing to the middle. Cover it, give it another 20 minutes, and then we're gonna come back and do a coil fold. Third and final fold, and this is a coil fold. This is the gentlest of the different types of folds that we'll do. With wet hands, I'm gonna go underneath the dough, just lifting it and seeing how stretchy it is. It's not that stretchy. It seems like it's got a lot of strength. I'm just gonna set it down, coiling it over on itself. That's it. You can see how gentle that is. In some ways, this fold is almost like a check-in. I'm just sort of seeing what the strength is of the dough. This dough is in very good shape for its final rise. Okay, so it's time for the divide, and I wanna talk for just a second about one of the things that makes this a great dough. In bakeries, we often have a base dough like this. It's a bread with a preferment, often a poulish, and we use it for a variety of things. We might make batards, we might shape some pan loaves out of it, we might make hamburger buns, we might make pizza or even focaccia or even baguettes. It's a very versatile dough, and so even though the instructions here today are for 2 batards or 2 boules, you could divide any shapes you want and make a variety of things. So a little flour on top, and just looking at this dough, you can see super happy, right? A little marshmallowy, ready for divide. And then what I'll do is I'll just release it at this juncture. I want to be tender with this dough. No aggressive handling right now. And then I'll just dump it out gently. And you can already see the structure of this dough. A little bit of flour on top. And I'm going to divide this batch in half. It's about 650 grams, somewhere right around there. See how I did. 650, 645. Okay, I'm gonna give these a gentle, round pre-shape. So I'm working on a lightly floured surface. It's not a surface that's sort of caked with flour like that, right? I don't want that much flour. I just want a dusting, a light dusting of flour. A round pre-shape in many ways mimics the action of a bowl fold, right? So I'm going from the outside, stretching the dough upwards, and then pressing in the center to seal. So gently stretching upwards, pressing to the center to seal, making my way around the mass of dough. The dough's a little sticky on top, so don't touch the sticky part. Where it's meeting your work surface, it's dry, right? And so that's where I'm gonna touch this dough, right? Making my way around. Lifting up, stretching gently, pressing to seal. Lifting up, just making my way around until it feels like it's tensioned, like I have a little bundle. After we pre-shape, these are gonna rest 15, 20 minutes, somewhere around there. Put them on a floured spot and cover them. Today I'm gonna shape these as batards, and then I'm gonna let them rise on some baker's linen or couche cloth. So for shaping, I like to work on a very lightly floured surface. So this dough has been proofing or resting seam side down, and I wanna have that seam on the interior of the final loaf, and so I invert it so that I'm working with the dough seam side up. I'm gonna pat gently to remove any big bubbles, and then I'm ready to start shaping. I'm gonna stretch it gently on sort of an east-west axis. I'm gonna fold it into the middle a little bit, fold the other side into the middle a little bit, creating a little bit of tension. I just double check to make sure that it's not stuck, it feels good. And then, starting at the top of the dough, I'm gonna roll it down, pressing with the weight of my hand and sort of sealing it in. So I'll come down, press to seal, like that. And we're almost there. Now I'm just gonna give it some pointier tips, just a little bit. Just a little bit of a point to it. And then I'm gonna set it onto my linen. I'll make a little bit of a pleat, like that. And let's do it again. Might need to reload your flour in between shapes. Just a little bit. Pat gently. That might sound rough, but I'm actually being pretty gentle. I'm just looking for any big bubbles. Fold it toward the middle a little bit. Pat again to remove any bubbles. Make sure that I'm not stuck to the bench. And then I just come down. Creating a little bit of tension. If you find yourself sticking, go grab a little bit of flour and then come back. Just tension it. And then we'll cover them and set them to rise 45 minutes, 60 minutes. Keep an eye on them, preheat your oven, get everything ready to go. It's almost time to bake. So these loaves have had 45, 60 minutes, something like that. They are proofed, but they're not as well proofed as I might take something like a pan loaf, right? If you think about a pan loaf, you want to proof it until it's really like 95% of the way to its full capacity before you load. Whereas with a hearth loaf like this, I'm gonna catch it a little bit younger. If I press it with my finger, there's a little bit of bounce left. I want some bounce when I load it so that the loaf can spring when it hits that hot stone and gets some steam and does the things that we want that allows it to have a nice ear, right? So don't wait until, when you press it with a finger, it doesn't bounce back at all. That might be a little bit far. Good for ciabatta, good for a pan loaf, not so good for a loaf that we want to open well, okay? Got my transfer peel here. I've got a piece of parchment. Now, just as a reminder here, these loaves are proofing seam side up, right? So I've got to turn them over and then put them onto the parchment right side up, meaning seam side down, if that makes sense, right? Let me show you what I mean. These are big. This is about as big as you can go in a home oven, I think, 2 loaves like this at a time. There's one. And there's the other one. Beautifully yellow dough. The yellow is from beta carotene. It's a vitamin that's in wheat, and if we treat our doughs well, and if we start with a really good high quality flour, the dough should have that beautiful yellow hue. I always think of it as like sunshine. It's sunshine that great grain absorbed in the field, and now it's giving it back to us with beautiful color and with beautiful flavor. There's a lot to be said about scoring. My best advice, though, is just don't let that loaf smell your fear or your concern at this moment. Just be confident, jump in there, go quickly, get it wrong a bunch of times. I promise you that you'll never catch up to the number of mistakes that I have made as a baker. So I'm gonna give this loaf 3 cuts. There are lots of options. There are even some diagrams in the book for different choices that you could make. So I'm gonna cut it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. You can actually see the internal structure of the dough where I cut it. It looks beautiful. I'll never get tired of that sound, that crunch. Super light for the size too, which for me is a sign of a good loaf of bread. Like if I look at it and if I pick it up and it doesn't feel dense or sort of heavy for a hearth bread, that tells me that the internal structure is good while having good overall volume. I'm excited about that. I'm also loving the crust. We added steam during the bake, and as the loaf cooled, it sort of cracks. And it's a hallmark of a Polish-based dough is to have that sort of cracking, that like shattering crust, which tells me that it's gonna be delicious. And now they're cool enough to actually cut into. There's a nose to it that's like, you just can't fake. The only thing missing is a little bit of butter. Thin crust, because of the steam, because of the good shaping and good formula, beautiful. So y'all, this is the Everyday French Loaf. It's one of over 125 recipes in this great new resource. We're hoping that you're gonna come along. We've got a lot more videos coming from the book. This is Martin and Tucker from the studio saying thanks. Get out there and bake some bread.